So I'd like to call on stage Mr. Professor Hameed to start his presentation.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. When I started off, it was 6 from daytime, and it was a nice, pleasant morning, especially here around. It's very, very green and fresh these days. So I hope you had fun yesterday.
Yes.
I heard you went all around, and then I even heard some guys were rolling down. So you really had fun. So I'm here not to add to that fun. Maybe I will just take a part of your sleep in the morning, but nevertheless, this morning I'll try to contribute a bit towards your experiences in Korea, and part of those are based on my own. Because I'm here in Korea since 2006. I graduated from Christ with a PhD in technology management. Right now, I teach at a local university in Daejeon. It's called Usong University, and this is their international school for business. So I normally teach MBA and BBA classes in the disciplines of IT, and mainly MIS, emerging technologies, conversions, innovation, entrepreneurship, so all of these strange kind of words. Those are my areas of work, research, teaching. So let's see what we have on the plate today. We will, in this session, about 45-50 minutes. I'll try to keep the time, and I'll try to keep it fun. Not too much theory, but nevertheless, I expect that we have variation of disciplines. People are from different areas, from different universities, with different experiences. So we need to create some kind of, I need to keep a balance. So I will try to keep some theory as well, and some definitional stuff, some conceptual stuff, some practical stuff, and put them all together. And my intention would be to contribute a bit towards your intention to explore and understand these two keywords of innovation and entrepreneurship, and how they can broaden up your opportunities you can pursue in your life. So I'm not here to doubt or convince you and right now kind of tell about those things, but in a sense, what we have done, what we are doing, I'm not going to talk about those. But I'm just going to introduce you to some of the things which probably you might not have thought before, like this, and I'll try to do my bit. Let's kick off. So we'll try to understand a bit about change. I mean, we all know, and we experience that. But then consider how innovation and entrepreneurship can be viewed as a response to change. And then in due course, we will keep talking about skills and capabilities for innovation and entrepreneurship, both at individual level, at firm level. Those will be the two focus levels for me. And if time permits, I'll also try to look at some strategies to develop innovation capabilities by follower firms and nations. So let's kick off. I'm trying to move. Although I can speak loud, and I can speak so loud that all of you can hear me because I teach every day. But I try to keep the mic as far as I can. So, change, right? That's what we know. It's the only constant. So change is the only constant. That's a very strong statement. And what does that mean in a sense that we normally like to, or normally things tend to move towards equilibrium or stability or stable states, right? So whenever there is a change, then we adapt. There is some reaction to the change, and then there are some movements towards the stability or equilibrium. That's the normal response. And then there is some further stimulus. which again brings the change. And the change is the only constant which keeps disturbing the equilibrium. That's a concept which we know as studying as engineers and social sciences, all of those things. Changes of many types, right? We change during our life. It's about 60, 70 years, 80 years maybe, for some it's 100. But we change from smoking, we learn many things, we make a family, and then we become old, our kids have their families, we die. What's that? It's a life cycle, right? So we change during a life cycle. We are changing continuously. But we also change in the short run. Within a day, we have different moods, we have different behaviors, things, right? So we change as humans, we change every day, we change over a period of time. Technologies are changing. So there are new technologies for everything. 30, 40 years back, we just have landline phones, and many even didn't have those. Probably many of you have not been, I'm not sure, but probably in Korea, the guys under 20 years of age, or around 20 years, probably they're not familiar with all of those old technologies. But for telephone, for communications, we majorly have those landlines. We had to go to call offices, we had to go to other friends' houses sometimes, because sometimes we didn't have phone at our homes. We shared the phones, public phones. So we used to have landline, right? Plain old telephone set. And then now we had cellulars, second generation cellular, then the third generation. And now it's LTE or fourth generation, and we're using smartphones, right? So technologies are changing. That's just one industry I'm talking about. We can talk about bigger changes, and I'll try to show some of those changes. Typically, as a life cycle, just like a human life cycle, we look at technology in the shape of an S-curve, right? It's called an S-curve. So if we take any performance index of any of a technology, for example, let's take adoption or diffusion. People start to use things. So when a new technology arrives, very few people use that, right? So it gradually picks up till there is a threshold point. After that point, it goes up, and many people adopt that. So when most of the people have adopted, then there are few who are left who will never adopt technology typically, and then that's the time when they will adopt. But by that time, the technology has already fulfilled its promise, and it has already reached its performance levels, the peak performance levels. That is the time when we need a new technology, right? So right now we have a technology somewhere here, for example, smartphone, which is smartphone technologies. Whatever technology is going to that, maybe we are picking up in this phase. Once we reach there, a couple of years, then they'll be saturated. Everyone will have a smartphone, and probably then there will be need for something new, a new way to communicate. So that's how the S-curves keep on coming out. That's how technologies change. So S-curve of S-curves is going on. That's how technologies change. We call it an S-curve of technology. The society changes, right? Back in early 1800s and before, we had early industrialization. We had steam engine, clothing industry, those kind of basic textile machinery. Then we have railway and transport. So at that time, the main modes of transport were ships, right? And then the railway transport came, and then most of the industries were surrounded. So basically what we are looking at is most of the industries are basically relying on these technologies during that wave. And basically those societies are early industrialization society or beyond. If we look at agricultural society, and even if we look further, thousands of years ago, hunting and kind of collecting kind of society, right? So late industrialization, chemistry, chemicals, automobiles, right? Petrochemistry, energy era, microchip, automation, after 70s, 60s, we can see. So we are becoming information society, right? Based on the semiconductor chips, based on the power of transistor and chips, and what they can produce in terms of communication, automation, whatever. So we became an information economy or information society. We moved towards knowledge society, and still it's going on. We don't know what next, right? We are becoming more conscious about our existence, our health, longer lives, healthier lifestyles. So probably the next wave of technologies would be bio, it'll be context, it'll be what? We don't know right now, but that's where we are going forward. Planets is changing, right? So change is basically all of the messages. This is a change in Brazil, right? This is just to put on your light yourself. This is a picture which Daniel shared with me a couple of years ago. So I just put it here. So the technology and society or people may be interlinked. That's one of the dimensions which I just wanted to bring on the light yourself. So basically the whole thing is, I missed the organizations and firms. So organizations and firms are changing. If we look at the Fortune 500 firms, the most admired company rank, Johnson & Johnson, you know, right? Healthcare, beauty, personal care products. Moved from 4th to 17th, just in 1 year, 8th to 25th. Costco, 7th to 33rd, Cisco, Toyota, Sony, they all are going down, for example. Some are going up. Organizations are changing. We have new faces of firms coming up. We know many of these symbols. Probably if I put the corporations from 70s and 80s and 60s, the large US and the European corporations, multinationals, many of you may not be able to recognize some of those names and logos because they don't exist anymore or they exist under a different name. So looking at the firm level, because this is our area of focus or this is our area of interest as a business professor, we talk about firms. So just a question. What may be the average profits of high and low performers over time? So this is a study looking at this in 1994, top firms. They have three options, or three paths, not options. They have three paths. They can grow, they can sustain at their current position of profitability, of competitiveness. They can go down. Similarly, the bottom 10% of the firms, they also have three paths to achieve. They can go up, they can be better, they can just stay like same, and they can go down. So basically these are some phases of change. What happens? They converge to the average over time. It's difficult to stay competitive. Right? This is the result from the study. So they tend to converge. So the weaker firms, they tend to become better. The top firms, they tend to move towards somewhere towards the average. So sustaining competitive advantage is difficult. Competitive advantage is our uniqueness or unique advantage as a company which we have, right? Which is the source of our positioning. That's the positioning we have in the market, competitive with reference to other companies. And that is based on core competencies usually. Now, this is difficult. For example, this is Nokia in 1865. So Nokia is not a new company. What did Nokia do at that time? Anyone can tell me? Help me?
Bricks.
Sorry?
Bricks.
Bricks. Okay. It was wood. You can say planks, wood, right? So it was a wood company. It transformed, added to rubber. It became finished rubber company. That's around 1898, roughly around 1900. 1960s, rubber company. And then 1980s and 90s, this is what we know, telecommunication, the biggest telecommunication mobile cellular company, right, manufacturer, and now it's not that number one. It remained number one for almost 2 decades, no more, right? So that's the kind of change which is going on and which we face, and everything faces change, right? In an industry, typically, most firms have to exit. The thing is, when a new technology starts, there are many firms which enter that industry and they make new products, they improve the processes, they improve the production, they make our lives better, they make money, they create jobs, but ultimately the potential ceases. And then many of them have to exit the industry till the industry dies. There is a new industry which substitutes that. And that's the typical process. It's an industry life cycle. Just like human life cycle, firm life cycle, organizational life cycle, whatever you call it, right? This is an industry life cycle. Many firms as an industry. So most firms have to exit at the end of the day. It's not easy to sustain. So change is inevitable. The question is not it's good or bad. Sometimes it's out of our control. Sometimes we can't fight with change. It will come from inside, from outside. The question is not whether it's good or bad. The question is to change or not to change. So to accept change, rather to put it in a better way, or not to accept change, right? Even a better way, in a more practical way, would be how to cope with the ongoing change, right? So when change is there, everything is changing, and we are surrounded by everything which is changing, and even we are changing, then how to cope with the ongoing change? So what does change bring? Why are we concerned about that? Because it brings uncertainty. We don't know what next is coming. So we have to move out of our comfort zone. We develop a comfort zone, which is the status quo, which is where we live, which is how we behave because we have learned, which is how we do everything. And we learned that over a period of time. So you moved from Brazil to Korea, and then there was a change, right? You were many of you must be feeling a little something before coming, right? Because I went through that. And when we landed here, it was already better, but anyways, ups and downs, but now you're much better off than what you perceived, right? So the thing is, we don't know what's there, and that's now talking at more specifically at the firm level rather than all of this was just backgrounder. Let's talk more specifically at the firm level. The challenge is how to create and sustain growth, right? Why at firm level? I'll talk. But creating and sustaining growth, economic growth, wealth creation, how is it possible in the face of change? So as managers, as engineers, as employees, as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as scientists, this will be the question which will be put before us. How to create and sustain growth when we're part of a team. And this challenge is comprised of several things. For example, average life expectancy of all firms is 12.5 years. So let's say life cycle, organization life cycle or firm life cycle is 12.5 years. After that, it will die. So how to keep it alive, right? So, and a multinational organization can live for about 45 years. That's typical. That's based on calculation. And then, that's about the large firms which exist. How about the young, small, new firms? 80% of the venture capital funded startups fail. We'll talk about these terms. Just imagine that new firms which come into being, which are formed by young people or old people, they usually fail, 80% of them. And then 70% of the new products launched by established firms fail. And then 90% of all firms are unable to sustain an above average growth. I showed you some data previously, right? Creating and sustaining growth is the specific challenge which the firm level, which is the firm level challenge, right? In the face of change. So we need to understand what is it before we go forward and try to manage or try to cope with the change. We need to understand, characterize it first, right? Until unless we understand something, we can define something, we can conceptualize, we cannot handle it. Is that right? Right? So we need to understand. First thing is scope. In the face of change, what we are receiving right now is things are becoming complex. We used to have simple machines, smaller stuff. Now we are getting the machines, the stuff, the systems, they are becoming more and more complex. The same for the same functions, right? Performing the same functions, probably better, more efficient, but they're becoming complex. It is becoming interdisciplinary. No more the knowledge of one discipline is enough. You need the products and the systems, plants, machines, processes, they're requiring, even dealing with humans, management, all of that requires knowledge from more than one single discipline. Engineers can't do it all. Managers or business guys can't do it all. Social scientists can't do it all. Then who's going to deal? Right? Interdisciplinary. So scope is very important in change. What is the scope we are talking about? Rate of change, right? Derivative. Or simply speaking, low change, very slow change. So things changed for our probably parents, my parents. Things changed very slowly. For me, they're changing fast. For you, it's even changing it's changing very, very fast, right? And probably your kids, so low to high, first order change, second order of change, so rate of change, rate of change, those kind of concepts. So slow change, very slowly moving. Things used to change, technologies used to change over 40 to 50 years. Now they're changing at less than 10 years, 8 years, 5 years. Right? So rate of change is something important to understand. Levels of, what level are we talking about when we're talking of scope? Is it about individual, group, firm, society? Sources? Where are the sources of change? Is it something internal if we're talking of an individual? Is it something to do with me from inside or some effects from outside? As a firm, can I control it or I can't? So is it internal or versus external? Where are the sources of change? There are patterns. As I showed you, every domain, whichever you pick up for change, you will find it has a pattern. They can vary, but overall, if we try to find, the patterns are cyclic or cyclic. Product cycles, business cycles, technology paradigms, Kunz waves, Kondrativ, I'll show you some of those. Outcomes, they can be very good, not neutral, negative, very negative. Is something good really good, and is something bad really bad? We don't know. Probably. So this is not objective, right? This is relative. Unfortunately, I just put it to give you a perception. It's all based on our perceptions. But anyways, we have to categorize, we have to measure some outcomes, and we have to measure, and when we are trying to manage change, when we are trying to do something, cope with the change, lead the change, then we need some kind of results to measure and look back at our efforts. So this is what we are confronting. Now it's not a single dimensional thing that we can just put outcomes versus some kind of, right? So it is multidimensional, it is complex stuff. What may be the possible responses? You can lead, you can go ahead, and probably you can be the change, right? You can create something new, which changes. Did the guy who first time proposed and configured probably the DARPANET or the mother or father or whatever you call it, internet, did he know what he has done? He has changed the society forever, for whatever reasons he did, right? He has left an impact on the society. That can be like leading the change, right? You can consciously do that. You can unconsciously do that sometimes. It can be just inspiration, expertise. We don't know. It comes all the ways. There are different ways. But next is we can adapt. We can respond. We can cope with the change. So if we can't be the change, we cannot drive the change. We cannot give it a direction. At least we can try whatever is coming our way. We can try to manage within that, right? So we can adapt. And then we can ignore the change. Those kind of options we have, choices we have. And this will be my focus for talking to you. Okay? Innovation and diffusion. So we have three concepts here: inventions, innovations, diffusions. Inventions are something new, right? Innovations are something new. Diffusion is using or adoption of those innovations or products or services or whatever comes out of those things, right? Those processes. So innovation and diffusion is something which is typically taken as, in the past, as something heroic. It's not systematic. It cannot be designed, created, produced. You go to talk to entrepreneurs, you can't find the qualities, DNA or something of an entrepreneur. What creates a guy, what makes a guy creative? How do you innovate? Before that, we need to quickly differentiate between these two things. Inventions are something totally new, radically new concepts, findings, inventions. It can be a technology, it can be science, scientific concept, it can be a method, right? So inventions are, which change the way radically for the next or new technologies. Innovation is, if you can sell that invention, if you can bring that invention, what you invented, out of your lab, out of your garage, out of wherever you was working, if you can get a first customer, if you can get it as a product, it becomes an innovation. So that's the criteria on which you can differentiate. So it's still probably the same, but it takes a lot more than invention to be a product or a service or something which can be sold, which can be used, right? That needs additional skills than engineering, than science, than specialization. That needs a lot of additional skills. You convert it into a product. That becomes innovation. So any invention which can find a way to the market, it becomes an innovation. And the guy becomes more than an inventor, he becomes an innovator, right? Next, you get your first customer. How will you get? The challenge is how will you grow? I showed you creation and growth of the products and services and wealth, right? So, how do you go beyond? How do you make people buy and use your product? How is it useful? So diffusion, adoption of your products or services, getting users, getting user base, getting customers, not just few, a lot, right? So what does that take? That takes even additional skills, additional capabilities as an individual, as a firm. So we move through this continuum and we look at these, that there are capabilities which are required and there are capabilities which are building up. So what capabilities were enough here are not enough to innovate. The capabilities which were enough to innovate are no more enough to diffuse. So is it enough? Where are we? Where do we stand? And who are those people who do those things? So Peter Drucker, he's a famous, probably one of the most well-known management gurus. He put it in back in 1985 in later articles. So I showed you a lot of changes, and he put those into sources of innovation. There are 7 types of sources of innovation. 4 of them are internal, 3 of them are external, outside the firm. So they are unexpected occurrences. They are things which nobody can predict. Incongruities. There are differences between 2 different people, between 2 different firms, between 2 different markets. There are process needs. We need to do things better in a more efficient way. There is an industry and market change. This is external, outside. Demographic changes, society changes, cultural shifts. There are changes in perceptions. Your customer starts to think, behave in a different way. New knowledge is available, right? From the universities, from institutions, from researchers, from innovators. Now, these are the kind of things which are the sources of change, innovation. These have been categorized, all of those things, into these categories. So, talking about all of these, looking at all of these as a source to cope with change. If we can look at them, if we can look at the change in either of those categories, and we try to perceive and we try to build upon what may be our choices, there are some kind of patterns for each one of these, right? So we can try to find out what may be our choices and how can we cope with that. So that discipline of identifying opportunities and using either of these and converting them into an innovation when you have your first customer, or a full market, a full base of customers, you're an entrepreneur. So I'm going to talk briefly about these 2 things, innovation and entrepreneurship, right? These 2 keywords. The guys who have shown things, the name is Nikolai Kondratyev. He has shown these are the economic cycles. These are called prosperity waves. If you just collect data from, this is from US, for example, and there are 4, the economy moves in a cycle. It is predictable. If we know what is coming ahead, right, we can prepare what may be our opportunities. We know. So these cycles are very important to know and understand, and they are of different frequencies. So, steam engine, important era, there is prosperity, and then recession, depression, and then there are improvements. So, we start here in a new industry, we go up, prosper, recession, and then depression. That's the normal trend. And it occurs every 30 years, 40 years, 20 years. The frequency is different, the cycle length is different for different things. For technology, it's different. For industry, it's different. Economy, at a national level, it's different, but it is happening. This is about, right now, we are living in the 5th Kondratyev, or it's ending actually. It's called IT, or Information Technology Kondratyev. What will be the 6th one? We know it's going down. If we can predict, if we can prepare as a nation, as an individual, as a firm, for the 6th Kondratyev, we will be well placed when it starts to prosper. So that's just an insight, right? So this is just an example of the skills we need to build as innovators and entrepreneurs. So we need to look at the changes. We need to understand the changes which are coming. Mega trends, how the change occurs, what are the patterns. This is the same. This is the data by a research firm, and they show it more concretely, those cycles in the US economy. Same. So we're in the 5th Kondratyev night right now, depression. And probably that means there is a new Kondratyev which is going to cycle, new cycle which is going to start. So what is that cycle to be? Environment, technology, nano, bio, healthcare, what? So that is going to mean much. Now the word innovation is defined by, or it was not, the concept of innovation as a source of wealth creation and entrepreneurship as a source of wealth creation was mastered and introduced by Joseph Schumpeter. So his most influential works were between 1930s and 50s, which he produced. And he introduced the word creative destruction. So he said, once the things have prospered, for example, we are comfortable in, with a technology, with an industry. The thing is, there are some guys who will do something new to destroy that industry. There are some firms who will do something to destroy, but that destruction will open up ways for the new technologies, new industries, new cycles. So that kind of activity is required, and that is always happening once a cycle starts to mature. After recession, when it starts to depress, those guys appear. They are entrepreneurs. They are essential to keep accumulating our wealth and growth. Right? So that pattern of entrepreneurs coming in and doing that is called Mark 1. I don't want to go into details, these are theoretical stuff. But then he showed that once a new cycle starts, the entrepreneurs, the small firms, they start a new cycle, they're no more able to keep up what the industry requires. So serving a large customer base is beyond the capacity of small firms. They need capital, they need production lines, they need lots. How do they get it? It's difficult. Either they become large firms very quickly, or large firms acquire them, or large firms come in. What do large firms do? Probably they will not invent new technologies. They will improve the process of producing the same stuff which those guys did, right? They will do it at much cheaper cost. They will do it much better. So that pattern is called, there is a product innovation, new products and services and new technologies. Finding those. This is the job of innovators and entrepreneurs. Innovators and entrepreneur, young guys, smaller. Once the cycle is going up, large firms come in. Corporates will improve. They will improve what? Process, right? Efficiencies. So this is the kind of his cycles. First wave, second wave, third wave, fourth, and now fifth. I'll not go into detail anymore of cycles because we've talked enough about change. Let's go to the subject. So let's fizzle out or phase out one of the understandings about innovation. Innovation is anything new. Who's this guy? Do you know him? He's just an ordinary guy, right? He's nobody, not a celebrity. So he's an innovator, right? So behavior, action, gesture, product, process, organizational way to new organization, new way to do things. All of that is innovation. It is not about technology. It is not about product only. So let's get away with it. That innovation is only about high tech, right? It can be as simple. I'll not go into this. There's a linear model of innovation and then chain link. Next concept is diffusion. So the capabilities required to innovate. What are those? What is the innovator's DNA? That is very important. We'll talk about that. But the next thing is, you have innovated, you can bring the product to the market, but you need to diffuse it. What will that require? Much more capabilities to communicate, right? So whereas there was creativity required in the innovation phase is probably management required. Now management, communication, marketing, advertising, social skills, right? Those kind of things would be much more. So we need to understand the social system. Even though we have an invention and innovation in hand, we have a product or service, how to communicate effectively, what's the right timing, and what's the social system where we are placing our product or service. Those are the dimensions which are very important. There's additional skills. Where do we acquire those skills? We need to find out, right? That's working for firms, going to internships, gaining experiences, taking additional courses, doing different degrees. Electrical engineering, why not in music? Strange, right? But there are people who are doing that. So we need to understand how things diffuse. Those are the dimensions, but this is a very clear cycle how things diffuse. We know very few people will adopt. There will be few early adopters, right? How do we talk to these guys? What will be the communication with these guys who are, they're guys who will always get whatever is new in the market, regardless of it's good, it's bad, it's mature, it's functional. They'll just buy, right? They will try. They're different. We should talk to them differently. We should approach, access them differently. They're early adopters, a little wise guys who want to be taking advantage of technologies, products, services, new things, innovations, but they want to still think. Early majority, late majority. All of these segments of the market, of the people, of the full market, they are kind of different to handle. Those are the skills. What will be on the communication front, on the social system front, on the timing front, for each of those segments, for different industries. How should this look like? Then, what are some of the innovators' characteristics? This is a study from the HBR. So, associating, questioning, observing, experimenting, and networking. We are looking at the top 5 executives of 5 best firms. Dell, probably eBay, I don't remember. So, how do they stack up? The thing is, all of them in associating, questioning, networking is not probably uniform, right? They are different. Not everyone is able to network well. Not everyone is able to experiment well. But definitely they're all above non-innovators. They're much above. But they're different. So what we can do is, from research, from things, we can understand some of those characteristics which are important. We need to find out what it takes to be innovator, what it takes to be entrepreneur. So it is about simply putting it together, summing it up. Entrepreneurship is about capabilities and efforts. Identify opportunities. So once the changes are occurring, if we have the capabilities to identify the changes, the opportunities within those changes, rather than looking at or fearing from the change, if we can look, if we can take it in face on, and exploit them to attain some purpose, mostly it's wealth creation, creating jobs, creating profits, making society better, regardless of the resources. It does not depend on what is in your pocket, right? Those guys who look at the pocket later and think of the idea and opportunities first, they are entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship takes together individual level stuff, willingness, competencies, effort, and the environmental level support, and all of that put together is kind of, you can say, it's entrepreneurship. And within that, there are different types: family entrepreneurship, family businesses, continued, social entrepreneurship, we have heard, corporates, large firms, all of them are doing R&D, they're trying to innovate, they're trying to sustain, right? So, new ventures. These are new small companies, right? So, and within them, there are new kinds of things which are, we can see now within the new ventures and even entrepreneurship. So, high-tech ventures. Within corporate, there are improvement, new businesses, innovation. So, in these areas, these are just different categories. What I'm interested in is, and you should be interested in, is as young guys who are pursuing, who are at the door of getting your first degrees and going through those programs where you're learning, is the new ventures. So are there possibilities to exploit, identify and exploit new opportunities in whatever field you're working? If you can, then you might be the basis, you might find a basis for a new venture. New ventures and entrepreneurship is high risk business, right? Uncertainty is high, but it brings higher returns than the normal. Why people engage in this? Because it creates wealth. It has high risks, but whoever puts all of those efforts which are required, all of those capabilities which are required, then there are some returns which are definitely higher than what markets can offer in the normal way. Okay? So creating new ventures is one of the big driver of economies in all modern economies. It is one of the bases which is being portrayed. Korea right now, you see, has already instituted a new ministry called Ministry of Science and Technology, IT, and Creative Economy. Creative economy, right? And that, without knowing what is it, the whole emphasis is on new startups. We know we cannot live on Samsung, LG, and Hyundai and all those chaebols anymore. We need to move forward, right? We need new, young, small startups. So, this is just the impact of one small organization. This is Stanford Technology Ventures, Stanford University. So, it has created, since it was a survey sent to 143,000 alumni of Stanford till today, till 2012. 43,000 of them returned this answer, and this is the conclusion from that study. 39,900 startups or firms they are running, the Stanford alumni. They're creating $2.7 trillion annually, those firms, and they are offering jobs to 5.4 million people across the globe. That's the impact of a single institution. Why? It is focused on creating new ventures. They're different, right? There are many more, but this is the impact of a single one institution on the global level. If you want to look at the California or regional level, then this is the impact they're creating in the regional economy. So, let's move forward. What is it about? What kind of skills and what kind of things you can expect where a venture thrives? That's important to understand. I will not go into detail, but let's say there is an idea, an opportunity, right? There is a new technological knowledge which is required, human and other resources, capital, attitude, very important. All of them put together, you make a new technology venture. I'll not go into the maths, but all of it needs to be supported by an environment. Right? So there is external things which we need to account for and we need to cope with. How do we measure this? Let's forget at the moment. Life cycle of technology venture. So once a new venture is created or you want to create a new venture, how it goes through that. So basically, there are two dimensions. One is risk and value. Over a period of time, it thrives between those two dimensions. Risk is high and risk becomes low. And value is low and value should increase. So our venture should be starting from here with a very high risk with no value to offer at the moment to the world, to the society, to the people, to the customer. Right? This is where we are starting from. So the challenge is really, there are significant type of challenges. Who will support you here? Nobody, probably. Where will you get the money from? Right? So all of those things. So this is where venture thrives basically. You have an idea or an R&D result. You define and clarify. You make a prototype and patent. That's the next step. You need to spend 1 or 2 years to make it into a product, whatever idea you have. You need to show the prototype, you need to test the prototype. Your first product, finally you have it. This is a significant milestone. First sales, market capture, you go and you have many customers. And finally, you finish or complete or exit from your venture, right? So you have a sale, you make an IPO or you make a merger and acquisition. IPO means going to the stock exchange to get the public money. Now public will fund, you're big enough to be supported by public money, right? So you can sell it to a larger firm, you can make an IPO, go to the stock exchange, get public money to support your further growth and operations. You can go through a merger and acquisition. These are the kind of, so at the beginning you have high risk, no value. As you move till your first product, you have reduced the risks significantly and you have improved the value. This is the kind of things which you go through. This for the startup in this stage. Next stage is early stage, A or B, depends on the type of funding. And then there is a late stage of the startup, and then you exit. So these are the typical stages of a technology or a new venture. You get pre-seed, some money to start up, maybe a garage, some furniture, some things to put your stuff. Seed money to make your first product, startup, to go and try capturing the market, expansion, and again those same things. Who helps you? Grants, incubators, friends, families. In this stage, incubators, technology incubators are the places where, just like you hatch chickens, new ventures are supported at universities, at regional governments. They make kind of a building, they make kind of an infrastructure which supports the new ventures, right? So incubators or angel investors. Angel investors are just guys who have money. They're old guys, typically 40, 50 years old. They have made money in life. And they want to make money from your venture, right? From your risk and efforts. So they will give you money. Venture capital. This is a proper fund, managed just like this. They can give you money, but on their terms. They want some partnership. They want part of your returns. So you can go to them. They're not banks. They're not government. They're private people. They will offer you money for some returns. Maybe shares in the firm. They want some control. But they will not come in this stage. That's the problem. They will only come once you have some value and lowered your risks. So this is a very, very crucial stage. Many startups can never reach here, right? And then private equity, hedge funds, public money, whatever. These are the ranges of the money you need. So we have been trying this for the first time in Korea with international students. This was at KAIST last year. We started Technology Venture Academy. Probably you can recognize this guy, and yet this, some of you. There's a Brazilian team, right? They were at KAIST. And we tried to put, this is the CEO of high-tech, a new startup venture, who's kind of mentoring these guys about their ideas. So we offered lectures, mentorship, direct interaction with people, access to some resources for international students who are studying in Korea. Explore the opportunities and understand much better about technology entrepreneurship, technology venturing, and trying to understand about the support and institutions which are accessible, which can help them create their ventures. There are legal hurdles. Probably you'll not be able to incorporate a venture of your own without a Korean partner at the moment, and language barriers and much more. But there has to be a start, right? You're a big group. I hope you will be able to explore your opportunities. I finish here. Let me just check the time. So I have more, but I will just skip to keep it simple. Okay. I'll just show you the graphics which I created. Thank you for your attention. At any point of time, talking to Daniel, especially if you can talk in the panel, I'll be happy to put up any kind of training, 3 days, 4 days, workshops. We can plan next time if we want to put focus sessions on innovation and entrepreneurship. Right? So that's just for the people who are interested. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
I want to personally thank Professor Hameed. We came almost together to Korea. We studied in KAIST together. For me, he'll start here. I think he'll start here for you, if you allow.
Sure.
Okay. So, from time to time, some students come and talk. Then, Daniel, I saw this idea that maybe we can start selling some screen golfs in Brazil. So maybe we can start talking to some companies and bring something. So I think this background that Tahir brought us today is very important. Yeah? And for you especially, you have the opportunity to do the connections with Korea, which I think opens some very new, valuable opportunities for you to help them starting something in Brazil. Just remember, all of you are familiar with LAN houses in Brazil, right? Internet cafe, right? But one guy became very rich in Brazil. He started some franchise, Monkey LAN house, right? And if you look at the history, he brought this idea from Korea, because for a long time the PC bands, all of you know, were here before. So he got this idea from here and implemented in Brazil. So I think there is a lot of opportunity for you to think about. So thank you very much, Professor.
I thank all the organizers and Daniel for bringing me here and providing the opportunity to talk. Thank you once again. All the best.